Seen you fight, how would you describe your fight style?
Awkward.
Rangy. Did I do justice to say that you peck people to death with that jab? You're all on the jab, aren't you?
Yeah, I only started doing that heaps more in the last probably year or so, maybe 2 years. But yeah, I've developed this, like I've got like about 4 or 5 different jabs, and I've developed this whip that just really works, man. It's like almost, as powerful as my right now. So
yeah, listen, I notice you're up and down with that jab like it's an elevator. Like you're an elevator, like you're up and down. You're varying the speed. It's beautiful it's really beautiful to watch. Why? Listen, you come from New Zealand, and I interviewed Jai Opataya recently, huge Australian fighter, and I'm wondering why is there not so many elite athletes from where you're from? And you guys are clearly warriors. Why is it there's not enough top fighters coming through into Saudi and into Vegas and the boxing meccas?
I'm from Australia.
Oh, you're from Australia?
Yeah. Same as Jai.
Yeah.
From Australia. But yeah, we've got a few. It's a lot harder to make it from Australia because we don't grow up boxing. We don't have like so many gyms, and it's not like the biggest sport in Australia. So and there's no like funding. There's no people really backing it. Like even today, like the name you just mentioned, then Jai, other big names don't really get backed by Australia enough.
Yeah.
So, it's really hard.
Do you think there's just not enough gyms then? There's just not enough accessibility?
Well, there would be probably more gyms if more people were backing it and things like that. It's just not like communities. There's not people really doing it enough and stuff. It's getting bigger now. Like we're starting to pick up. We're probably like one of the fastest growing, over the last few years now. So yeah.
Mm. Okay, yeah. So you're an Australian fighter. So I'm thinking like Joe Parker's Kiwi. You've got obviously Jai Opataya. You've had David Tua, Cambosis. There's been some good fighters, But you just honestly, I've been out to Australia and you're hard warriors. The Maoris as well. Like you're hardened warriors. I'd expect more top fighters coming through. Listen, why have you gone into influencer boxing? Surely you're too good to be an influencer.
It just happened by accident. I guess there was talk of me fighting Tommy a couple of years ago, and it just never caught on. And I was in Thailand most of last year fighting, and I met a few scousers while I was over there because I just travel to gyms on my own, and I'll spar anyone. And I went to this gym, and there was a lot of English blokes at this gym, and I became friends with them, saunas. They just liked me because I'd rock up and spar everyone, and they thought I was a bit mad. And I became friends with them, and they knew people over here, like where I am right now, and that's sort of how it all started. It just started from me, talking shit in the sauna, saying, I almost fought Tommy Fury a couple of years ago, and then there was someone here that spoke to someone, and this just blew up from there, man, a couple of months. And I was happy to go down the hard road, have another 10 tough fights in people's backyards, probably get robbed a couple more times to fight the best.
I love that.
This happened, man, and I've realised that, I can have a couple of these influence fights, and then, it'd be a lot easier for me to fight the best in the world quicker. And I'm obviously doing it for different reasons now. Number one reason is, for men's mental health and things like that, and I really want to, I've got my number one reason for that, and my selfish reasons is what I just said before. I want to fight the best in the world as quick as I can.
Yeah.
And, I was willing to do it the hard way before, but now this has popped up. And if I can have a few influence fights, then, like Julius Chavez Jr. has already said he'll fight me. And
brilliant.
Everything's happening so fast over the last few weeks.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll see how this goes. I'm here now.
Does money come into it? I mean, I know it might sound a silly question, but did you actually look at, these guys with blue ticks that aren't as good fighters as you? Let's be honest. You're going to be one of the best fighters.
Every fight I've said I'll do it for free, and if they have to pay out, because they will. I said I'll donate it to men's mental health, which is the number one reason I'm doing it. So not once have I thought or talked about money. I've had my other reasons for doing this.
Yeah, no, fair. So why Tommy Fury? How did that come about then?
just by accident, just because he was the person. So a couple of years ago, before he was as big a name, you could fight him if you put up a few 100,000 or something like that. And there was talk about it when I was like a 1-0 or 2-0 fighter, and I was considering it, and it just didn't happen. And I was just talking shit in the sauna to these scousers a few months ago in Thailand, and it just then he announced to the world that his next fight would be a legitimate fighter, and then obviously I became that legitimate fighter. And that's why and then it just went from there.
Yeah, but listen, I've seen you. You're not wasting any time at all, my brother, because you're calling out the big dogs straight away. I've seen you doing fight posters of KSI, fight posters of Jake Paul. You know what I mean? You're calling out Tommy Fury. I mean, you're on that, brother, like one of your tattoos. You know what I mean? Like you're all over him. If you could have one dream fight, like money's not an issue, venue's not an issue. Who would you go for?
Canelo Alvarez.
Would you?
Yeah, everyone's dream fight.
Yeah, he's got to be up there with everyone, isn't he? You wouldn't take Jake Paul just because, like, to be the man to knock him out would be quite fun, wouldn't it?
He'd be my number one for like influencing. Like he's the number one in this influence circle. But my number one, if you could, the main reason I want to do this influence stuff is so I could fight someone like Canelo the next day. So if I could fight anyone, it'd be Canelo. If it was anyone in the influence circle, it'd be Jake Paul.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Maybe it's changed to Tommy Fury and he's pissed me off a little bit.
That's a good shout. All right then. So why should Tommy Fury fight you?
Sorry?
Why should Tommy Fury fight you?
Well, I think he'll be lucky to get to fight me. People keep saying, I want to fight Tommy Fury. I tell people, no, Tommy Fury wants to fight me. Because he's the one who said he wants to fight a legitimate fighter. I'm the first. I'm sure other legitimate fighters will put on him, but I'm the first one to probably put on him. Was in every news article, you can't get a coffee without being asked about me. He said that he didn't want to be known as a Love Island star anymore. He wants to be known as a proper fighter. Now, if he ducks me, you can't get more of 100% duck than this duck. So you can't, because he's been put on him proper by what he asked for. So he's very lucky if he gets to fight me, because now he gets to prove to the world that he's a legitimate fighter. Otherwise, he has to give up the sport or just say I'm a Love Island star. Just be honest about himself then.
Fair.
From what I've learned from this process, at the start, I probably respected him a bit more. Now I think he's a bit of a pussy. Yeah, and as I've been sparring with Darren, as I keep going on, I'm here now. I just keep learning more and more. I've become friends with some of his friends. Yeah. I became friends with his barber. I was learning heaps more about him. He just seems more like a bit of more of a pussy every time. The more I fucking hear him. So I was supposed to be, people like just be humble about it. That's how you get the fight. And I was humble. And now, like, the more I learn, the more I just don't really care,
Yeah. Well, listen, look, you've been sparring the likes of Darren Till, the Smith brothers, Liam, Callum. You've been like Josh Taylor, some real serious operators. What did you make of the whole Darren Till, Tommy Fury thing? I was at the press conference and Till was saying he was going to kick him and stuff like that if the fight wasn't going his way. And then obviously Fury pulled out. What was your take on that?
First of all, I haven't sparred Liam in that yet. I'm sparring Liam tomorrow. I just sparred Darren yesterday and on Monday. There was just pictures I took with him in the gym. Yeah.
Okay. You've got Liam Smith tomorrow. Beautiful.
Sparring Liam tomorrow. I had Darren yesterday and on Monday, and obviously I'll try and I would love to do rounds with the other boys. Sorry, and to answer what you just asked, and I thought when I read about it, even then I thought Tommy's a bit of a pussy. Like, you don't fight because someone says you're fighting. So to me, like, it's not saying I'll never pull out of a fight, even if the bloke pulled a gun on me there. So I don't know. I can't. Yeah, the fight should have happened. I think now after spending time with Darren as well, like, I know why Tommy pulled out the fight, because he would have got eaten up by Darren. So and he'll get eaten up by me too. But
one of the fans is asking, is Tommy known in Oz?
Yeah, because of Love Island. Love Island's like real big in Australia.
Yeah, he is known in Oz. Okay, that's interesting.
Everyone knows like Molly May, so everyone knows Tommy. He's probably more famous because of her. Yeah. I mean, his fight with Jake Paul, I must admit, I actually shamelessly paid for that.
I don't like to pay for boxing unless it's quality. And it was one of the worst fights I've ever witnessed. I'll be honest. As a boxing purist, the fight was just terrible. It really was terrible. So listen, what do you think he's avoiding you because you're high risk and low reward?
Well, he said, I mean, if he wants to fight a legitimate fighter, I think I'm more the other way around for him. Like, he couldn't get better of a legitimate fighter because I don't know, like, if he's going to fight a legitimate fighter, he's not going to have like a Jake. If he's not fighting the Jake Pauls or the KSIs now, I think I'm the best legitimate fighter he could get, as in, like, if you go by that, with the story and everything and what I fight for, that, like, he reckons he's an advocate for men's mental health and that, and obviously I feel like I'm the poster child for men's mental health, so I feel like it's, like what you asked earlier when you said, why should he, fight, I still think, like, it's the other way around, like, he's lucky he gets, the opportunity to fight me, so,
Yeah, I asked that question because probably from Fury's point of view, he wanted, Darren Till. He probably wants Jake Paul fight, rematch, KSI. Like, there's some like mega buck fights for him, and you'd be dangerous for him because you could potentially knock him out and humiliate him, and he might not want to, he lose all his stock. You know what I mean? He'd be like,
you can't say you want to fight a legitimate fighter if you're worried about being knocked out.
Yeah, but it won't be the first or the last time you see fighters, picking and choosing their route, if you like.
Well, that's true. That's what I mean. There would have been 10,000 other legitimate fighters that put it on it, but I'm the first one that's put it on it where everyone knows about it. Like, I was in all the, there's not been another legitimate fighter where we're fake, like, everyone knows about me and him now. Like, so I'm the first proper legitimate fighter to proper put on it where everyone in the world knows about it.
Yeah. No, well, listen, I really hope you get that fight. That'd be really good, And do you know what? There's Ty Mitchell's fighting against Idris Virgo on April the 12th, and that's not just been announced in Derby. But I actually quite like to see some proper boxing on Misfits. That's two really good operators, a really good fight. It's good to see some good fighters on as well. And the standard is going up, I believe. And it's great to see, I think.
Ty said he would fight me. I already spoke to Ty. I think Idris said he'd fight me too, but me and Ty spoke about it more personally in the inbox, and he said, yeah, no problem if they're happy to run it. So, because I was talking about them being the light heavyweight, like the world title for them, and I obviously said that if I'm an influence there now, that makes me the champion in the Misfit scene.
Yeah. No, I think it's refreshing to see a couple of like quality fights on there, and because sometimes sometimes you do see sort of people doing the front crawl and like spinning around like a ballerina and stuff like that after throwing punches, and it gives like boxing a bit of a bad name, in my opinion. When you're seeing guys getting paid hard and they've just got no fundamentals about their game. So it's actually good to see some really tantalizing fights and fighters like yourself, pushing to get on and entertain us. Listen, you've got a big background in MMA and Muay Thai. Why did you move to boxing?
I had a gym when I was about just before I went to prison. And Angelo Hyder was there with Danny Green. Danny's probably one of the most famous boxers we've had from here. Do you know who Danny Green? He knocked out Roy Jones Jr. like in the first minute. Do you remember that?
Yeah, blooming hell.
Yeah. And Angelo's like a legendary trainer in Australia. And they were at my gym, so I was taking in people. I was taking in like ex-fighters that were using drugs, and I was trying to get them off the street and get him fighting and training again. And joined to this gym was like where the fighters were in that as well, Angelo and Danny. And obviously I'd already done all the fighting and that, and then I started loving boxing, obviously, because Danny and Angelo, I was very young. Angelo started mentoring me. And then, I wanted to have a professional boxing fight, which I was getting ready for. I don't know if you know, but I spent most of my 20s in prison because we were like, me and the boys were kidnapping pedophiles. And, so I was getting ready for my first professional fight. I was actually put what we're doing aside to get ready for this fight, and then we got set up by the cops and that. And then I went to prison for most of my 20s.
Yeah.
And I wanted to finish that. I wanted to finish that goal when I got out, which is what I've been doing since I got out. Pretty much when I was 29, almost 30, and I've been fighting ever since.
Yeah, listen, you've got a wicked story, and funny enough, you beat me to it because I was just going to ask you about that. I was just going to ask you about the gang life and some of your upbringing. So yeah, what, you were kidnapping pedos?
Yeah.
And you just went on a righteous mission, did you, or it was just?
When I was 10, I lived with one of the biggest pedophile families where I'm from in Western Australia, and I was the oldest kid there. I ran away from there. They all got done. They used to make us make videos and stuff, and I felt like a coward for running, and it's sort of why I think I don't know why I started fighting. There's a bunch of reasons, but this is probably one of them. And I felt like a coward, and when I found out it was all over, I think I was about 12. It's like in my memory, it was like one night I just woke up and I just was this kid that just wouldn't take any shit from anyone, and I wanted to fight everyone. And that went into high school where I started joining gangs and got into as many fights as you could think of, and that evolved into ball fighting and stuff like that. So I was when I was about 16, I think the older kids took me to a gym because I was that kid that thought he was real tough and could fight everyone, and they took me to a gym where I got beat up by a proper fighter, and then that sort of humbled me out. So I was doing the on and off gang stuff, but I was also humbling out in the fighting world too. So I was, which I was always yin and yang, and then eventually, I went to I ended up leading a gang, but because of what happened when I was a kid, and I think everyone hates pedophiles, but I just guess I wanted to do something, and the boys obviously supported me, and we just took it to a new level, where we use what we have, we use our resources, and everyone sort of knew what we were doing in the community. People would come to us, obviously would make sure. This was like years ago. Before, I know everyone today, they'll pretend to be like a kid, they'll set, but this is before them times. We weren't doing it for like footage. We're doing it to get as many pedophiles as we could. And we had someone real smart back then who was pretending to be a kid. And so we'd make sure that when people come to us about these people, they were proper pedophiles, would pretend to be a kid, and we would, we'd set them up and get them in that. And we got away with it because we would set them up on that phone, so we'd have all this evidence against them, and that would protect us. And that's how we got away with it. So eventually, the police ended up, knowing about it, but they couldn't do anything because the community weren't really going to give us up. And we were pretty smart about it. So eventually they set us up with a pedophile, and that's how I ended up going to prison, spent most of my 20s. Oh,
man. Do you know what? One of the people here, Universe 8128, has written, "You deserve all the good things in life, and the world needs more people like yourself, Matt." And I think a lot of people have a lot of sympathy for what you were trying to do. I don't know if that's the right words. So excuse me if it doesn't sound right, but it's almost heroic what you were doing there, and you've been punished in life for it. How long did you serve in the can?
All up, I did like a few years on remand and then 5.5 sentence. So I did I think I was about 23-ish, 22, 23, and then I came out when I was almost 30. So, most of my 20s really.
Oh, man. But you're kind of doing a good cause at the same time, I'm not condoning what you've done, and I'm sure you might have regrets about some of the things you've done, but you're kind of doing things for the right reasons and getting punished for it. Listen, do you think a fighter needs to have a tough upbringing to be able to be a world champion? Is it an advantage?
I don't really know, man. I guess I feel like I'm a fighter. I feel like it's hard to say born a fighter because I was a real scared kid at one point, and then, like I just said, but I feel like I don't really know this one, man, because I feel like you're either born it or you're not, and then obviously it's confusing for me because I was a real scared kid until I just changed overnight. So,
difficult one to answer.
I think maybe it's a bunch of everything, man. All I know is today, I'm truly not scared of anyone, and I'll fight anyone. I don't know if that's from my upbringing or I was born that way, or it's real hard. I see fighters that train every day, and you can sort of see it in them. Like, I'll give Fury and Jake Paul as an example. I think Fury's got no heart, but he's been well trained for 5. And I think Jake Paul's got heart. You know, and you can sort of see it. I mean, that's just from what I see on Instagram, and I don't really know. I haven't met him as people.
Yeah.
I can usually see people. I think there's a very small percentage. Like, you know, so I come across 100 people, I might see one that I can see, oh yeah, he's got that heart that he was born with. You know, you can see it, but I don't know if that was born with it or from what you just said, the upbringings that become that. I don't really know, man.
Yeah, I'm only asking because I interviewed Bernard Hopkins and he had a colourful past. You know, that brother had been stabbed a couple of times. He'd been robbing people all his life. He'd been on the streets of Philadelphia. He came on an Insta Live with me and he said, you need that toughness if you want to win fights. He learned to box in prison as well, but B-Hop. His story was incredible. And he's like, oh, no, you need that. It's almost impossible to go for those runs with your silk underwear on, you know. And he's saying, like, you know, like Conor Benn and Eubank Jr., two guys that we've got here, he said it's hard for them. They'll never get to world level because they're born rich. They don't have to fight. They've never had to fight out of struggle. And he says it's a huge advantage to have that. So that's all I was asking, you know, that reason. Can you just be a rich kid and just be like a hard bastard?
I agree. I actually agree. I taught myself how to box in prison too. So I learned how to fight and box mainly in prison.
Yeah.
Before this adult prison, I was also like in prison when I was like a teenager and that as well. But I definitely taught myself mainly from the last time from this sentence. So I agree with what he's saying. Absolutely. Like I never had a dad or anyone that, you know, when you know that pushed me or give me opportunity or anything like that. And it drives me insane because I take a lot of boys off the street and I look after a lot of boys. And I always say, you're just so lucky you got me, man. I say, like, if I had me when I was 18, I would have been a world champion at 20. They don't realise, you know, they get everything handed to them. And you see it a lot, man. I've seen a lot of kids come to the gym, their dad gives, you know, everything. So I think, yeah, you have to go through. I think he's absolutely right. I think I've got a lot of similarities. I don't really know what he went to prison for, Bernard Hopkins, but I think, you know, from hearing a few things like what you just said and things like that, I feel like I've got a lot of similarities to him.
Yeah, I think he had like I think he said he had like 12 felonies against him or something like this. And I think he was robbing people, stabbing people, all sorts. I think it was multiple offences, you know, burglary. He was just a bad man off the streets. He said at one point in Philadelphia, he could just walk up to people and they'd just hand them their stuff. You know what I mean? Because he was just feared. Do you know what I mean? They knew they'd get knocked out. So he'd just walk up to you and you just hand your shit over. Serious. Last question on the boxing side, and then I'm just going to have a little last bit of fun before I let you go. Would you say boxing then has saved your life and martial arts has saved your life?
Yeah.
100%, yeah. You'd be dead or in prison if you didn't learn the skills.
Yeah, I don't know. Definitely, I don't know how or whatever, but it has. And I've definitely saved a lot of boys' lives with boxing and my gym and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, couple of quick fire questions before I let you go. I know that you've got a fight coming up. I know that you're always training. So I appreciate your time. Listen, who is your favourite light heavyweight boxer at the moment?
I know Gallo's not a light heavyweight, but I want to say him because I want him to be light heavyweight because that's, you know, that I want to fight at the end. But he'll come up, you know. If you can't say Canelo, because he's not really a light heavyweight.
You've got some good choices, though. Bivol, Beterbiev, the division's stacked. Bivol, Beterbiev, Yard, Buatsi. Oh, the division's pretty stacked. Any light heavyweights that your favourite or not really?
Yeah, I'd say Beterbiev probably because he's like 40 and what he's still doing at that age and things like that, I think it's pretty amazing. Yeah,
that brother's an animal. When you got like, you know, he's knocked out everyone apart from Bivol, which is crazy. What's your favourite punch?
It used to be my right, but now it's probably my jab.
Yeah, your jab is lovely. Absolutely lovely. Favourite boxer of all time?
Sugar Ray Robinson.
Nice one. 30-second KO, one punch KO, or punch perfect masterclass?
The first one.
30-second KO. Okay, overhand, right or uppercut?
Uppercut.
Head movement or footwork?
Footwork.
Ah, interesting. KSI or Dylan Dennis?
KSI.
Mitchell or Virgo?
Mitchell.
Eubank Jr. or Connor Ben?
Ben.
Oh, interesting. Can I ask you why are you going Ben?
I just think he'll win. I think he's got the fire in him and the heart, and I think he's a bit harder.
Bit younger, bit fresher.
Not the younger thing, just the harder. You can just sort of see it more. You can see that fire, and it looks more believable from watching him.
Yeah. Everyone's got that fight real 50-50. Huge fight in the UK, by the way, that is. I went to the press conference. Hopefully I'll be going to the fight doing media as well. But it's a huge fight here, not because of so much their abilities, but because of the rivalry. But listen, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. You've got a remarkable story. And I, for one, really can't wait to watch your journey unfold. And I have my fingers and my toes crossed that we get to see you in full effect on Misfits. I'd love to see you get the fight shit that you so richly deserve, because what you've been through and where you are now and what you're trying to do is truly inspirational. So big up yourself. Bless up, my man. And I wish you all the absolute best and most success. And I really hope that you go on and achieve all your goals.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. I think I'll be fighting on Misfits next weekend too, by the way. But yeah, I'm pretty hopeful. But yeah, but thanks for having me, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
You'll be on you think you'll be on next weekend?
Yeah, I reckon I will be. Yeah.
Any hints on opponents, or you can't say that in?
Oh man, there's 10. It's changed every day since I've been here. But I'm here, so I'm in the UK. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. So.
Oh, beautiful! That's absolutely fantastic. Listen, as I said, I wish you all the best of luck. You're not only an exceptional fighter, but you're a true gentleman. Thank you very much for your time, my G.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Cheers, my man.
Thanks, brother.
What a ledge! What a ledge! That is Matt Jedi Floyd. Peace out.